Hello, everyone. Hobbs here, starting off the show. Wah, wah, wah. Okay. And LSU, no. This is Hobbs. Have you ever seen the comic strip Calvin and Hobbes? So this is what Hobbs looks like when Calvin's parents or anyone else is around. So this is what he would look like as his stuffed version, not the imaginary real version, excuse me, that Calvin always has of him. So that's who this is. So as I said, I'm a big Calvin and Hobbes fan. So I have been for years. Probably one of the best comic strips in my personal opinion. Anyway, so let's get to these topics. I'm just going through and answering some questions. So one of the questions that came in on Sunday was how much nutrients are you preserving in your canned foods? The exciting thing that I didn't know, because for the longest time, I thought that, because something I'd read years ago, that you preserved more of your nutrients by freezing. Come to find out, freezing is actually the worst for destroying nutrients. But then, as I shared in that video, I realized I wasn't all that surprised to learn that, because I noticed when it came to fermenting anything that had been frozen, the only way I could get it to get a good ferment is to add a fermentation starter. But I can take fresh fruits, herbs, and whatever, and I can ferment them without using a fermentation starter. Usually when I make a fermentation starter or I'm making vinegar, I don't use anything to get it started other than the sugar, the water, and whatever herb for vegetable I'm throwing in there. And I only will use fresh or dried to do that. But when I'm making wine from my homemade grapes, they've been frozen. So I most definitely have to add a fermentation starter, which I would do anyway, just to be certain. Canning, especially if you're canning, your produce straight from your garden, like you're bringing it in, you get busy and you start canning it up right away, is one of the best ways to preserve the nutrients, most of the nutrients. And yes, the heat of canning will destroy some. So there's 4 nutrients that you'll lose some of in the canning process. So the first 2 would be vitamins A and vitamin C, and the next 2 are B vitamins, not all of them, just 2 of them, thiamine and riboflavin. But even then, it doesn't destroy them all, like we keep hearing people say, are you going to destroy all your, no, you actually can save up to 30, or might lose, I think tops 30% of just those particular nutrients. However, you're still going to have all your minerals, all your protein, all your carbohydrates, all your, there's always things I forget to mention, but your fiber, that's all still always going to be there, no matter what. And this goes for any type of food preservation. And so dehydrating does a really good job of preserving nutrients. And as we know, so does freeze drying. But in my personal opinion, just from what I've researched, there's very little difference between freeze drying and dehydrating, especially if you're not dehydrating at a super high heat. But again, the nutrients lost are going to be very similar. It's just going to be those 4, and you're not going to lose them all. You're only going to lose a portion of those. And so canning has been, for many, many years, a very viable way to preserve food for long term. Now, it is also important, as with any food that you store, that you can and will lose nutrients over time. But again, it's going to be those 4. It's not going to be all of them. That means 10, 15 years down the road, you can open up a can of whatever it is that you put up, and you're still going to have all your minerals, protein, fiber, and so on. So, don't think that just because something has been canned and put up forever, that there's nothing left in it by the time you get to it. Do you have teaching on women's health, maybe on Rumble? I have a video both on Rumble and on my other channel, my main channel, on mostly it's about menopause, but it would apply to PMS too. So even if you're not in menopause, but just herbs and various things you can do to help ease your symptoms so that you don't have to take, hormone replacement therapy or anything like that, which I never would recommend personally. So I'll go ahead and address a couple of these as they're flying by. Do you tincture cloves? I do, but only because I'm adding them to other things. I'm actually going to do a separate video on this pretty soon because I want to get another one started. That now I make an elderberry tincture that I like to use for a throat spray. So if you have a sore throat, cough, or whatever, and I do the elderberries, but I also add cinnamon, cloves, and other things to that to tincture because all those are really good for helping to fight the ailment. And cloves are really good for also numbing, if you got a sore throat. They're also, as well as the alcohol that's in the tincture, are good for numbing the throat. Okay, canning with homemade vinegar. Can you do that? I say yes. There's a couple of things that you got to keep. I know some people say no, but here's the two things that you can do is you can get a strong enough vinegar homemade to use it for canning, despite what people say. What you will need to do is you'll need to make sure you have like pH strips and you check to see if your pH on your vinegar is at least at least around 3. As 2.5 is even better. It can be 3.5. You don't want it any higher than 3.5. A pH of 2.5 is a 5% acidity. So that would be the same as you would buy in the store. So if you have a 2.5 to 3, I would say that would be the most comfortable range, then you can use that for canning. However, if it's like 3.5 to 4, preferably you want your vinegar to be a 3.5 or less anyway on pH. And you need, by the way, you need universal pH strips, and you need to put the vinegar into a separate container, just a tiny bit, enough that you can dip that pH strip in, swirl it for a second, and then read it, and then throw that out because you don't know what gunk is on that. It could be toxic. So it's best not to use it, put it in the vinegar like I used to do, not even thinking, duh. But universal pH strips. The other thing is if it's like a 3.5, then I would say instead of diluting it, just use straight vinegar. Now, I've used my homemade vinegar for canning before, but I was canning. So it really didn't matter. I was pressure canning beets, and I added my homemade vinegar for flavor. And they turned out really good. But yes, you can use your homemade vinegar, but I just don't dilute it when I do use it. The honey infused garlic. So I thought this was interesting. Usually what I get is a question where people will say, well, I ate all the garlic out of my honey infused garlic and I still have a lot of honey left. Can I add garlic? And that always would surprise me. Well, this one was the other way around. So this person is actually eating the honey out of the honey infused garlic and leaving the garlic, and then wondering if they can add more honey. Well, the answer to both of those is yes, you can do that. Just keep in mind that the garlic, eventually you're going to be pulling out, if you keep doing that and you're just leaving the garlic, eventually you're going to run out of the good stuff that's in the garlic. I mean, you probably wouldn't run out, but you'd end up with less and less of it. How I do it is I just, especially since I add a lot of stuff, I don't just have honey and garlic. I have the garlic with the honey, and then I'll add stuff like a lot of times I'll put in black seeds. I'll put in horseradish is one of my favorite things now to add, especially if you're taking it to help with a cold, because the horseradish is going to help open up the sinus passages. And I just use my own homegrown horseradish that I've dehydrated and powdered up to my best of my ability, and I put that in there. And I think I said black seed. I almost always throw in some kind of spice, whether it be my own homegrown Chinese 5-color peppers that I've chopped up real small, or some red pepper flakes. I'll put in cinnamon. I'll put in a little nutmeg and cloves, because all that stuff's really good for helping with colds and flus, viral and bacterial infections. And that's what I take the honey infused garlic for. If I feel anything coming on, sometimes I just take a bite of it because I like it and it's good. Now, the picture in the thumbnail, that's honey infused garlic as well. Well, it's green because that was one I was trying out and I put moringa in it. Not my favorite, But I was thinking, well, this might be a way to get, because I don't like the taste of moringa. So I'm always trying to find ways to use it where I don't mind the flavor so much. So I thought I'd try that, and it was okay, but definitely not my favorite. Yeah, I mean, you can do that, but I just recommend eating the whole thing. And so when I get done with a jar of honey infused garlic, there's nothing left in there because I'm eating the honey, the garlic, the spices, and whatever else is in there all together. So I'm getting all of the benefits of the raw honey, all of the benefits of the spices and other goodies I'm throwing in there, and all the benefits of the raw garlic. But I mean, do what's best for you. I'm not trying to say that's how you should do it. That's just how I do it. I prefer to do it that way. And then as once I finish off a jar, I've got another jar ready to go, and then I get another jar going or two. Excuse me, I'm giving you guys a shower again at that point so that there's always some in there when I need it. So would adding nasturtium leaves be good? Yes. Yep. Or even the seeds. Seeds are really hot and they're just really powerful. I use my nasturtium leaves for making the antibiotic tincture. Oregano is another good one. You don't have to use just nasturtium leaves. You can use something else, but because oregano is another good one. There's all kind. In fact, I had to. That's another one of the videos I had to reshoot, and I have another one of those coming out, a new one on a list of antibiotics that are all natural, so herbs and more. Oh, yes, something really exciting, and I'm really terrible about noticing this stuff until somebody else points it out. So a lot of people the reason some people didn't like Rumble for a long time is because they didn't have closed captions. Guess what they have now? They have closed captions. So those of you who have been staying away from Rumble because you really like having those closed captions, either because you're hard of hearing or you're in a place where you need to keep the sound down or off, so you like to have those closed captions so you can at least read along. They have them now. I was so thrilled. I was so thrilled. That was one of the last things that we were really waiting for them to do. I think you can also adjust video speeds there like you can here. They're slowly improving things more and more all the time. It would just be nice that if things were allowed, advertisers were allowed to be on there that actually paid better. Because I tell you what, if I had to live off what I made off Rumble, we would die. $20 a month isn't going to cut it. So if I had to pour all of my time just into Rumble and only could make $20 an hour, or $20 an hour would be great. But I mean, $20 a month out of a whole month, then I would definitely have to do something else. Mention Patreon. Patrick's writing me notes. So yes, I don't always remember to mention my Patreon. Now, here's the thing. Sometimes people just kind of balk when you just say Patreon. Well, I've had Patreon for many years. And when I first started it, yeah, I had it kind of a donation thing, because that's how you did it. Then I realized, no, I don't like this. I really, really hate anything where people are required to pay to be able to view the content. This is why I don't have a members only on my YouTube. That's why I don't have a members only on Rumble. And I don't do it on Patreon either. However, Patreon's really a great place for me to put some of my like written information, photos. So when I type up a list, I type up a recipe, I can put that over there and people can just search and find it. Though if you're not a paid patron, I don't know how easy it is to search and find it, but if it goes with a video, I put the link directly to it under that video and it's free. I do not make people pay anything to be able to access any of that information. It's always free. Now, if people choose to donate, and that's the way to do it, that Patreon actually is a much better way to go than to do like super chats. And I really appreciate people who've done super chats. And some people still like to do that, and that's fine. The reason I say that though is that super chats, you have to remember, any money that any creator makes off YouTube, it doesn't matter what form it comes in, YouTube takes a 30% cut. Yeah, 30%. 30%. Patreon doesn't take quite as high a cut, at least last I looked. And then there's always PayPal. If you send don't I'm not asking for donations, don't get me wrong, but if you're wanting to donate to people, to any channel, if they have a PayPal account, you can send money to any channel that has a PayPal account and select friends and family, and then PayPal doesn't take any of the cut. They get all of the money that you send to them. If you send it as you're purchasing merchandise, then PayPal is going to take a small percentage. And what that is basically to cover insurance if that person doesn't get the product that they ordered. That's why there's a difference between merchandise and sending money to friends and family. So whenever you're donating to anyone, it doesn't matter who it is. It can be a family member, whatever. If they have PayPal, this is why I know a lot of people hate PayPal because of what they did a year or so ago. But you know what? When it comes to donating, they're still one of the best ways because you can donate money if you do it the right way. You want to make sure that person gets, or you're just sending money to someone because they need it. You're a family member, you can send it to them, and they're cross country or whatever, or in a different country, and they can, if you select friends and family, they can get all of the money you send them, and PayPal does not take any of a cut. Like Patreon takes some, YouTube definitely takes a big chunk. Most other places usually have some kind of percentage they're going to take, GoFundMe's and whatnot. So yeah, 30%. And even with that though, so Rumble takes a percentage too. I don't know what their percentage is, but I can still make more money off of YouTube, even with as little as I'm making now because of what they're doing to me. I can still make considerably more on YouTube than I can on Rumble. I mean, $20 a month, again, that just, I make an average of 50 to 60 cents a day right now. For some reason, I actually got to a point where I was making about $1 a day. And I was like, yay, I can make a whole $1 a day. That means $30 a month. Then all of a sudden it dropped. And I think that was because certain advertisers were forced to pull out of Rumble. And I don't think it's Rumble's fault. So, but I don't know what their percentage is. Obviously, they take a percentage because it costs money to do the platform. It takes money and time. So I have no problem with platforms like Patreon, YouTube, Rumble taking a percentage because that's, that's a trade-off. But yeah, YouTube takes a pretty big chunk. No wonder owners have yachts and jets. Yeah, they make quite a bit. You think how many channels are out there? Think about like some of the really big channels that are just getting the massive amounts of views. They have over, several million followers, and they probably put commercials all through there. Oh man, they're raking in the big bucks. I don't care about raking in big bucks. I just want to be able to survive. I just want to be able to make enough money to make it worth my time that I pour in there, like any average citizen of any country. You put in a full-time job, you want to get paid what you're worth. That's all. That's all I care about. I notice an uptick in channels I regularly view using paid sponsors. Yep. I think that the reason why many are going with paid sponsors is because maybe what's happening to them. That's something I just prefer not to do. I really don't want to do that. I don't want to have commercials, but whether they be ones I make myself or whatever, in the middle of my videos. Now, I might promote a product, but I'm not an affiliate with Shepherd's Crook. I have this here because I was smelling it. This is my favorite one, the Columbia. I'm not an affiliate with them, but they've been kind to me. They've given me some free coffee for promoting them, but I don't, I can't say that's something that's going to happen all the time. But if you're interested, the thing was cool about them is they still gave a 25% discount to anyone who goes to their site and just puts in RAIN25 coupon code and gets 25% off. Now, I'm not an affiliate with them, but I do appreciate them appreciating me and being willing to share some free coffee, though I bought most of it, just so you know. But a lot of the other links that you'll find in my description boxes there are affiliates I try not to push them, but I'll bring them up now and then. And hoping that people will only like something, especially something expensive like the Nakano knives, which I do love, especially the micarta series. Love it. My newest knife is so great, but they are expensive. I got a lot of the knives I got from them, I didn't have to pay for. They gave me, I have bought some. I bought the steak knives, and I bought, what else did I buy? The set of paring knives, and I love them all. However, that's quite an expense, especially for people who can't afford it. Do you need expensive knives to prepare food? This is why I say this all the time, because I don't want anyone ever to feel pressured into buying that stuff. But I like to have that there for people who are interested in, you know what, I can afford it. Or I can afford to buy this for so-and-so. This would be a nice gift. At least I know about that set of Japanese knives because I've used them and I love them. Again, especially the micarta. They're so sharp. But I know one of the topics I was going to bring up. One of the posts I put out there a couple of years ago. I have a post over there where I have pictures of vintage canning charts. We're talking ones that go back to at least the 50s. One is a ball canning chart. It doesn't say ball on it, but I know it is because I searched those. It was kind of hard to find them. But here's the cool thing about the vintage canning charts. The vintage canning charts show timetables for both water bath canning and pressure canning low acid foods. So let's say you're looking up, I want to can potatoes. I want to can some roast beef, whatever. It'll give you the times for both. The pressure can, if you're going to pressure can, 90 minutes. If you're going to water bath can, 3 hours or 180 minutes. They usually write it out in minutes. They really did used to do this. Ball used to have, before they changed everything, they used to have the charts for both. So, because that was just the way until pressure canners became the norm and people were able to kind of start affording them. Of course, now they're unaffordable again. People water bath canned. You're Mr. Rain's boss now? Well, not quite, as you've noticed. He's also got a wrench. You guys are going to have to do a sword fight with the wrenches. So, anyway, it's fun. Darlene, oh my goodness. I don't know. Was it wrong for me to make both Darlene and Mr. Rain moderators? Could this get ugly? Could we have a rumble? Oh dear. So anyway, hope you all have a great rest of your day, rest of your week. Take care, everyone, and thank you, moderators, for allowing me to make you moderators. Take care, and God bless.